Hey, Shalom Akim, Shalom, Shalom, all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Makakodash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth, and salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwath and the listen. May the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Raquai. I'm back in here. Lord's will is always, Yahweh Ratazah. This will be an edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm just going to be going through this article here in regards to a major U.S. bank hit nationwide outage. So this happened early today, and it says major U.S. bank was hit by nationwide outage as users reported issues with credit cards. So it says Citibank, used by 200 million Americans, was hit with nationwide outage. So it says the bank's website showed an error message. We have encountered an issue and are working to fix the issue. No other details have been provided except for customers to return to the website 10 to 15 minutes later on. It says that the issues were fixed around 2 p.m. A Citibank spokesperson told the Daily Mail a limited subset of credit card users were briefly affected by technology's issue that has been resolved, right? So, you know, it's so what you take away from, something to take away from this situation is that, a lot of the time people spent, trying to acquire a lot of what's it called, physical substance, it shows that in the blink of an eye, and it can disappear just like that. you know all it really takes is for the Lord to pretty much send a what's it called, an outage, kind of like what happened recently in, I believe it's Spain and Portugal, where they were like blackouts. And all it takes is for a situation where that all that money that people hoard up, is just gone, right? So, we're living in a time where it's very, very interesting, and people can lose it. That's one of the things that people can do, right? And when they realize that they have nothing to lose, they lose it. So let me just get this first precept here. And it says, this is Sirach chapter 20, verse 30, and it says, wisdom that is hid and treasure that is hoarded up, what profit is in them both? Right? So, there is no profit, because our people are in this mindset of constantly, chasing money, right? And there is really nothing wrong with having substance, because the scriptures do say that money is a defense, right? So it's, you use it, but our people go to the further extent of the point where they actually, they start to worship it, and essentially their mindset towards Yahweh Bashim El Shai is not existent. So let me continue on in the article here. It says that Down Detector, a site that monitors online outages, showed issues hit around 10 a.m. With credit cards and mobile banking cited not working. An outage map showed New York City, Dallas, Chicago, Los Angeles, and other major cities were experiencing problems. It says Citibank did not acknowledge the issues on the social media pages. It says approximately 46% of them were having issues with their credit cards, and 36% did not access mobile banking, right? And that's an easy, method for people to essentially just lose it, right? And it shows you where the treasure of a lot of our people's minds are. As a matter of fact, let me go to that. Just bear with me on this. Let me just go to, since I mentioned that, just bear with me on this. Okay, this is Matthew 6 verse 19, and it says, "Lay up for yourselves treasures, lay excuse me, sorry, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, where thieves do not break through and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Right? So, it shows that there is a clear separation between the way a lot of our people store up their treasures, and then there is a clear difference between how the house of David, the elect, actually store up their treasures. Because, yes, we're subject to payments. Yes, we pay Caesars unto Caesars. We do these things, to get by. But, we have a bit of a more of a, I like to call it like a second Ezra 16 type of mindset. To the, like, you have certain things, like where it talks about, you having a vineyard but you may not enjoy the grapes, right? You have the mindset that, okay, this is not going to save you at the end of the day. Me having a business, or this, good cushiony job, or whatever it is, that, it's not going to save me at the end of the day, because it shows in a snapshot how easily those things are taken away. It shows you how easily in a snapshot, that those things, they're temporal. They're only for a moment, right? So, but if you have treasures in heaven, you have a good, you have good deeds, good works, faith and all that, all those things, the Lord can remember you in times of trouble, because you had those things stored up. And, because what's very interesting is that, and it takes faith also, and as I'm thinking about it, it really does take faith, because that, okay, and you can be in a position where you can lose those things, and the Lord can easily reward you for the things that you did, and then credit you because you had substance, you had spiritual substance. And one of the things our people lack is that they don't have any substance at all. The scriptures say that wisdom is the principal thing, and get wisdom, and with all I get understanding, right? Let the words of a Mashiach, Yahushai, dwell within you richly, because knowing these things, I don't want to say you have a carefree attitude. It's just that, you have some substance, you have some spiritual substance. And this is why people get so caught up in acquiring a lot of physical substance, because they don't have anything in their spirit. They don't have their soul isn't satisfied. Their soul isn't satiated. They're hungry, I should say. The scriptures say, "Come ye to the waters and eat," right? And let your soul delight itself in fatness, right? Our people are very, they don't have a well satiated spirit. They have a spirit where they're always wanting, and they'll do anything to absolutely get it, even by the means of actually transgressing the ways of the Lord, right? So let me go back to the article here. Let me see if there's any more. It's a short article. It's not too long. It says, so this person posted on X, Citibank help. Just spent 2+ hours on the phone being transferred from around with no solution. My credit card info disappeared from my app, and no one can get it back, right? So it shows you how fragile and how simple, how easily and quickly these things can just vanish, right? Without a trace, because you don't actually have a currency or a monetary system that's backed by physical substance. Everything is kind of just up in the air. Everything is kind of just electronic blips that you see on an ATM. It's nothing substantial, right? So, and knowing these things, we understand that we use the world and we don't abuse it, right? Because the scriptures say the fashion of this world passeth away, right? So let me go to where is it? It was something that King David said. One second, let me see if I find it. Okay, here it is. Okay, this is Psalms 37, verse 25, and it says, I have been young and have been old, yet I have not seen the righteous, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging for bread, right? So it shows you, let me go into the etymology of that word righteous, actually. Because the ways that our people conduct themselves, it's absolutely far from being righteous. Let me go to the etymology here. Because we're Jacob, right? We were created to be an upright, honorable seed. What's it called? Righteous. Oh, yes. Okay, this is righteous. It means characterized by justice, morally upright, morally right. It says sinless, conforming to divine law. It says those who are righteous. It means genuine, excellent, right? So there's a spirit that that the Lord created us to be in this particular fashion, but it shows you a lot of our people will be neglected in these particular times because they're not of an ilk who is they're made to be righteous, but they don't conduct themselves as righteous. They conduct themselves as degenerate plants of a strange vine, right? So there was a precept that just came to my head and I just forgot it. Oh, let me just get this real quick. Let me just go to this. Just bear with me on this. This is Nehemiah chapter 5, verse 15, and it says, but the former governors, that had been before me were chargeable unto the people, and have taken of them bread and wine, beside 40 shekels of silver. Yea, even their servants bear rule over the people, but so did not I, because I fear the Most High Yahweh, right? So here Nehemiah is giving you an account of some of the things the former governors of Judah had done, but he's explaining that he didn't act in this particular way because he feared the Lord, right? And Nehemiah is a very, very excellent example, because he is a type of individual. He had a lofty position. He was a cupbearer, right? As a matter of fact, let me prove that. Because a cupbearer is no joke, right? A cupbearer is somebody who's you had to have a certain sentiment of morals, of character, of uprightness about you. You're not a Tyrone. That's the point I'm really trying to hit here. Nehemiah 1 and 11, and it says, O Lord Yahweh, I beseech thee. It says, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants, who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant this day, to grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. Right? So the cupbearer, that's going back to the point, A cupbearer is somebody who has some type of moral excellence about them, and our people strongly lack that. So in those times to come, it's going to show that they don't have a spirit, or they don't have righteous works to essentially, um, for the Lord to essentially remember them, right? You know, the Lord is going to remember a lot of the wicked things that they did. Like the scriptures talk about, they had of loathed my law. When they had liberty, they shall know death by pain, because the things that they were stacking up they were just fruits of wickedness. They were just fruits of malice, envy, the wicked things they have done to even get certain things in this world, right? And those particular things, like, the Lord will remember those things and reward them accordingly to those things, right? So, okay, hold on. I just wanted to read this real quick about the cupbearer. This is on Wikipedia. This says the cupbearer was historically an officer of high rank in royal courts, whose duty was to pour and serve the drinks at the royal table. On account of the fear of plots and intrigues such as poisoning, a person had to be regarded as thoroughly trustworthy and hold the hold the position. He would guard against poison in the king's cup, and was sometimes required to swallow some of the drink before serving it. His confidential relations with the king often gave him a position of great influence, right? So I'm just showing you the type of person that Nehemiah was. He wasn't like a regular Joe Schmo. He wasn't like a regular um, individual like, I hate to use Nabal, but I'll probably use Nabal anyway. Because Nabal was somebody that had substance, and he didn't, help King David out when he had the chance, right? But he wasn't somebody who was wicked. He was somebody who was righteous, and therefore he was given that position that he had. He was able to perform those different, perform and be in that, in that particular position. So the point is that the righteousness, he had a certain ilk of righteousness, a certain character of righteousness about him. So people like that, the Lord is not going to forget those people in those kind of times, right? Because they have righteousness, they have certain works, that the Lord will remember us. Lord's will, the Lord has mercy upon us and remember us in those times. But the point really is, you know, unrighteous people, they're going to fall by their own deeds, right? They're going to get those works. They're going to get those. They're going to get those rewards, and the unrighteous people are going to get their own works and own rewards also, right? So, let me just go to Luke the 12th chapter. Okay, this is Luke 12, verse 16, and it says, "And he spake a parable unto them, saying, The ground of a certain rich man brought forth plentifully. And he thought to himself, within himself, saying, What shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, This will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thine ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But the Most High said unto him, Thou fool, thou this night thy soul shall be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure, going back to that word again, for himself, and is not rich towards the Most High Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, right? So it shows you the difference, because our people are in this mindset of the same individual here. Okay, let me just keep going. Let me keep going. Let me, acquire all these, these physical riches. Like, if you have some substance and the Lord blesses you with it, cool beans. If you water Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, show some gratitude, right? But at the same time, it shows you the riches are not on the inside, right? That's why, a lot of our people are going to be in a state of destitution, in those times, because they were not rich. They did not have a healthy relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? Scriptures say that seek ye the Lord while he may be found, right? So it shows that, it's not going to be a lot of time when he's going to be found, right? So they did not have those riches. And that's another thing also with our people. They like to, because they're so insecure, their riches are they need to display their riches upon the outside. They need to, be decked out on the outside rather than being decked out on the inside, right? And again, let me just say this, if you like to dress, dress accordingly, and, present yourself well, there's nothing wrong with that, you know, but with our people, they take it too far because they neglected the spiritual things. They neglected the inner man, enriching their soul to delight itself in fatness. They neglected those things, right? So, um, that's pretty much, you know, it. For the lesson is that I wanted to, just discuss this real quick. I just thought it was very interesting. Because it shows you how easily those things can be taken, right? So, anyways, I guess I'll just leave it there. But Lord's will, Yahweh Ratazah, this lesson was edifying. I just like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Until next time, I say Shalom.